New focus video, this time on dirt. Just kidding. This is the Cougar KD made by Schumacher. Another mid-motor car that they had for dirt and not carpet specifically or high grip. So this has a stand-up transmission. I love how the rear shocks are on the back side of the A-arms and not mounted forward, so you get as much weight as possible off of the back of the vehicle. Everything about this car is designed for dirt and loose traction. As you can see, it already has the 3-degree for toe on the rear, so that should be pretty good. I don't know if this particular car came with more than 3 degrees, but that will be a good place to start. Look at all of that aluminum. The entire rear section of this vehicle, from the motor mount all the way back over the rear diff, up to the rear shock towers, that is one giant piece of CNC'd aluminum. It's pretty interesting. I don't know if, besides some of their on-road cars, if any of the other off-road vehicles ever came with something like that. Probably a Cat, like a K1 or K2 might have come with that. My L1, I don't believe, has something like that. But this one's going to be pretty fun. I'm going to set it up specifically to compete with my rear motor SVR. And then I'm going to have a more modern mid-motor car, and then I have a wild card that I am going to put the same motors, same electronics, same gearing as possible, and go out and do some track time, compare laps, look at like how they handle. It will be pretty interesting. The entire front end on the Cougars from this era, even all the way up till like the LD2, are very similar. So if you look at the front suspension, the front steering components, turnbuckles, arms, like all of that is going to be very similar. It's where the rear end and the chassis are going to be mostly the biggest differences on these cars. Ideally for dirt, I would have loved to have the aluminum chassis, but unfortunately this car didn't have it. And this is not a car that I raced when it was new. So this was a used purchase. Pretty lightly used. Either they ran it indoors. Always had a chassis protector on the bottom, so there's no wear as far as that goes. And everything looks really clean. I'll have to tear it apart, see what the rear diff looks like. I'm not sure if it has a ball diff or a gear diff. Well, there's the answer to my last question. Definitely came with a ball diff. I'll have to see once I get it apart. There's another shot of that stand-up transmission with that big aluminum piece. I believe in that photo it's showing some of it to be plastic and some of it's aluminum. So this car probably has that upgraded. And there's that gear cover. Again, this one was designed for dirt. Designed for low traction, dirt tracks. A new Cougar KD raises the bar again. It says that the performance was great at the European Off-Road Championships in Spain. I'll have to look up the race and see how they did. That was when the KD was prototyped. So it'd be interesting to see if I can find some photos from that race. I'm not sure what year that would have been, but I can probably do some digging. It's saying that this was a new 3-gear stand-up gearbox, versus more of the modern cars now have a laydown. This also had 14-ball differential, so that must have been when they made the change to 14. Just taking a look through the manual, it does look like you can do an adjustable lipo position, but it's just a pretty standard rear, middle, front. You can move it back and forth a few millimeters with those positions. So I think my statement about the shocks being mounted on the rear were not fully correct. It is on the back of the arm, but it's still in front of the rear shock tower. So some modern cars, you're able to put the shocks behind the arms, but you're also putting them behind on the back side of the shock tower. So that's a little different on this layout, something I've noticed. So maybe that wing sits farther back on this car than some two-wheel drive buggies. Once I get it all put together, I'll have to do a comparison with that if I remember about it. I always love looking at their accessories, like t-shirts, hats, polos, beanies. They have a work mat. They have a banner. That is something I've been looking for, is one of these work mats. I've heard they haven't made those in many years. As you can see, this is all the older style of logo versus the newer one. So I was right earlier. There is a 3.5 rear strap for that toe to get to go from 3 degrees to 3.5, and it also is a brass weight, so that probably adds a little bit of weight hanging off of the back of the car and would be better for dirt. It might be something I'll have to look for. A lot of these speed parts, speed secrets, are hard to find now. There's that side guard that this car currently has, the aluminum alloy side guard. It might be too stiff for off-road, loose dirt, so I might have to go to a plastic one versus that one, but we'll see. I just wanted to give you a shot of the body. It's a pretty interesting cab forward with that really thin fin, and then you have that extra piece that goes out the back because it needs to go all the way over that transmission case to the rear shock tower. So that's why you have that extended piece there. There's a quick look at the instructions. And there you have it. That is the dirt spec Cougar KD. And I'll be doing a comparison with this versus a few other buggies that I have. All of them are going to be Cougars. So the comparison is going to be as fair as possible to see what is better. My vote is rear motor, especially for the dirt.